What is up, everybody? Bootman here, and we are back with another Marvel Snap video. And in this video, even though we're gonna be talking about underrated cards, we're gonna be going over a lot of different things that are gonna help you become a better player. A lot of it's gonna go over some psychology, some statistics, and just mindset in general, because mindset is like very, very important in any competitive setting, all right? And I think a lot of the conversations going on around in the community might actually be harming your game, which is preventing you from hitting infinite or even farming some tickets in Conquest to hopefully beat the Infinity Conquest and get that beautiful, beautiful avatar border, all right? But before we get started, if you're new here, hi, my name is Chris. I also go by Bootman. If you love Marvel Snap as much as I do, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. Thanks you, all of you. Welcome all you new beautiful faces out there. We just did a kind of celebration for hitting 10,000 subscribers. We gave away 10 of the Arrow bundles to some lucky winners. But anyways, make sure you're gonna subscribe because I do a bunch of giveaways. Every single month, I give away 3 season passes for free. That's every single month. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. You gotta follow me on Twitter too. It's at BootmanMSTZ, link down in the description below. And if you wanna become part of an awesome Discord community, that's linked in the description below. This coming week, DC Dual Force Beta Weekend is back. I have like 500 beta keys left over too, so if you wanna play, make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'm just like giving them out. I'm handing them out like candy, all right? But we also have a Discord channel for DC Dual Force for anybody who's gonna be interested in that. My little new kitty is trying to climb in places she shouldn't be. So let's hold on to her for a second as we kick this video off. So that right there, that is Dolly. All right, so anyways, like I said, we're gonna be talking about some underrated cards in Marvel Snap, but we're gonna go over some other things too, all right? So anyways, let's start out by talking about some of the conversations going on around spotlight caches and FSDs, or known as flexible series drops, all right? So first we need to talk about some assumptions, all right? And you know what they say, what happens when you assume, right? All right, so it is assumed that Second Dinner is going to be holding the best cards and that the spotlight caches may somehow be bad, all right? So there are a ton of creators who have made videos on the spotlight caches, a bunch of different opinions, and Brad and I, we also went over it a little bit on the Snap on Ego podcast. That's our podcast. Make sure you check it out. It's usually bi-weekly, but we've kind of upped it a little bit lately just because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. But anyways, all right? So first off, like I said, it's assumed that they're gonna be holding the best cards. Obviously, I have Darkhawk and Null up here. This has been somewhat of a controversy because they were supposed to be dropping down from Series 4 to Series 3, okay? I've had a ton of opinions on that, so I'm not gonna dive into it too much. But here is something else that I cannot stress enough. Like, please, please, like, beat this into your head, okay? We also need to remember that we do not know how good a card will be until we have like significant amount of data, all right? This is something that's been kind of driving me nuts lately. I've seen people like looking at data mines, what cards are gonna be released straight to Series 4, which by the way, is kind of a huge deal. We have not had any cards go straight to Series 4 since they first started doing the token shop, like back in, what was it, November or December? So assuming cards are gonna be bad is like kind of mind-blowing to me, all right? This is a very creative game. Like I always try to emphasize the creativity of this. I love creativity. I love seeing what people come up with, not just in Marvel Snap, but in the world, in art, innovation. I love it, all right? So don't just assume cards are gonna be bad. Pretty soon we're gonna talk about becoming an independent thinker, like really look at cards and assess them on your own, but also wait until the data comes out about these cards. So please stop assuming that we already know what cards are gonna be good or bad before they even come out. I think Spider-Ham's a great example. It was the first straight to Series 4 card we had. That card is insanely popular and it's pretty dang good. It is a one drop that you can slot into just about any deck for some good disruption. All right, so let's get those assumptions out of the way. But first, before we dive into the underrated cards, let's talk about some positive psychology, all right? I can't believe I'm still holding this cat. All right, she's adorable though, isn't she? Can you hear her? Can you hear her? She breathes very loudly because of the flat face and all. All right, so first, let's talk about some positive psychology. I have a book up here called The Happiness Advantage. Those of you who don't know, I read hundreds of nonfiction books a year. Psychology is one of my favorite subjects. I love psychology, philosophy. I love understanding human behavior as much as possible because we people are just these irrational creatures who think that we're just like the smartest things ever. We do all sorts of silly things, all right? But this is one of the first positive psychology books that I read. That's called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker. One caveat that I want to put out there, because I'm a big believer in like data and like getting truth out there, positive psychology is a very controversial field of psychology. There's a lot of disputes, arguments, and stuff like that. A lot of behavioral psychology in general. There's been a lot of studies retracted and everything. So take some of this with a grain of salt, but the stuff I'm going over has been replicated by others and stuff. So like, I try to pick out like the best stuff, okay? So anyways, the first thing that we need to talk about when we're talking about mindset, playing, all that kind of stuff, is locus of control. I first learned about locus of control from this book, The Happiness Advantage. So this kind of sums it up right here, okay? There's an internal and external locus of control. You're one of those two people. You either have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control, all right? So people who develop an internal locus of control believe that they are responsible for their own success, all right? So like, I just celebrated 11 years sober on Friday, okay? And part of this was, after many relapses, was me realizing, okay, I do have some control over this. If I do the things that I'm being told to do, if I'm doing the things that I've seen have worked for others, maybe I have a chance of getting clean and actually being alive. You know what I mean? That's just an example. But also, when it comes to managing just my life, right? When I'm applying for jobs, I know that I do not have control over whether or not I get hired, but what I do have control over is how many places I apply for, how many job applications I put out there, how I act and behave inside of an interview, right? The hard work that I do leading up to the interview to have like a wealth of experience, how well I do my resume, right? So I think about the things that I can control. I really try to separate these things. Now, I used to be somebody who had an external locus of control. So those with an external locus of control believe that external forces like luck determine their outcomes. So I am somebody who will always emphasize that luck is a major factor in a lot of things, including life. For example, one of the primary predictors of your future wealth is how much wealth that you are born into. You have nothing to do with that, you know what I mean? So luck is a major factor, especially in Marvel Snap. In Marvel Snap, luck is a huge factor. I rant about it all the time. But again, it's about like, I think we all have like a little bit of internal and external locus of control, and it's about letting your internal locus of control outweigh the external, right? So like in Marvel Snap, my internal locus of control is how much I play, how much I practice, how much I study, how much I research, how many videos do I watch from content creators who I think are good at this game or better than me, right? What am I learning from them, okay? As long as I am focusing on everything that I can control, it minimizes the external locus of control. Because research has shown that people who feel more in control of their lives with an internal locus of control are happier than other people with an external locus of control. If you're running around in your life thinking that you have no control over anything, of course you're gonna be miserable, all right? So think about that when we're talking about card acquisition and what decks you could play and stuff like that. If all you're doing is focusing on what cards you don't have, the things you can't control, if you don't have money to be buying all the bundles and tokens and all this other stuff, if that's all you're focusing on, you are screwed, my friend. You are absolutely screwed, all right? So another thing that came out of positive psychology, this is actually a famous study by a gentleman by the name of Martin Seligman, is learned helplessness. So speaking of controversial, this was a very controversial study the way they did this. So this is an image of the experiment they did. It was a shuttle box for dogs. So what they did was, like you can see here, so what they did was they got different sets of dogs and they put them in a box like this, and they would shock one side of the box. And then the dog would jump over to safety. Okay, this side shocks, I jump over here, I'm safe. Well, for some dogs, this is the controversial part, which I agree with, it's not cool to do this, is they would shock one side of the box, then when the dog would jump over, that side would shock them too. And what they did was, with that group where it shocked both sides, the dogs would end up getting shocked and then they would just sit there. All right. So after repeatedly realizing that they had no control over this situation, no matter where they went, they got shocked, they just gave up. Okay. But this has been, kind of a breakthrough for psychology, because we realize that when we think we have absolutely no control over the situation, we just kind of give up. So like, just think about that in the context of Marvel Snap. If you just regularly think that you have no control, oh my God, this card's not dropping, oh my God, I can't afford this card, right? You're gonna teach yourself that you just have no hope, no success. And like, I often think about this when it comes to people who are constantly asking me or telling me, I can't hit infinite, I can't get past like Silver Conquest, all these other things. It's like, well, where's your mindset at? You know what I mean? Like, are you working with what you got? Are you looking around? Are you researching? Are you looking to see if there are any decks out there that can thrive with the cards that you have? The very first deck, some of you who are old school, all right, some of you who have been here since I started this channel like back in December, you remember Magantris. Magantris was a deck that got me to infinite multiple seasons in a row. And the whole reason I found that deck or built that deck, because I made some tweaks, was because I was just going, and when I would acquire a new card, it was before I was Series 3 complete, when I would get a new card, I would look around. I would go around to Snap.fan and say, what decks are there with this card? I would go through them and see what other cards I had and say, okay, I can make that deck, I can make that deck. I would look at it and be like, that deck looks kind of cool, whatever. And I would just experiment. Then I landed on Magantris. I was not Series 3 complete. And like, not only was I not Series 3 complete, I was missing so many key cards that were dominating the meta. I did not get Arrow. Arrow was one of my last cards. Wave was one of my last cards. Thera was one of the last cards that I got. Okay, Daredevil was one of my last cards. Like, all those cards I listed were like in the last like 5 to 10 cards I needed. So I had to work with what I had, and I have hit infinite every single season, all right? So get your mind right. But the next one I wanna talk about is this. I tossed this one in. I was almost done with my slideshow. I'm like, you know what? I gotta go back and I gotta add this in. This is a very, very good book as well. It's called The Luck Factor. And this is something I've taught my son about as well, because like I said, luck does play a major role in our lives, all right? There are so many things that are completely outside of our control. But again, like, our mindset really does help in different scenarios, okay? So one experiment they did was they gave 2 groups of people an impossible puzzle, all right? I just tossed, this is not the puzzle, I like Googled puzzle box. I was like, oh, that looks cool, all right? But they gave these people an impossible puzzle, all right? And group A was people, they separated these people into groups, they had everybody fill out a questionnaire. People in group A felt as though they were unlucky, all right? Terrible things always happen to them. It's that external locus of control. They have no control over their lives. Terrible luck, everything's always terrible, right? Then they have group B. Group B considers themselves lucky, okay? And this is a very, very good book, all right? This is from a very well-known psychologist, Richard Wiseman, and like, he's done a lot of studies on luck and just how people think, okay? So anyways, the primary difference between these 2 people, they gave 2 groups of people an impossible puzzle. One group feels that they're lucky, one group feels that they're unlucky. The significant difference between these 2 groups of people was that the group who considered themselves lucky didn't give up as quickly, all right? So the group who felt they were unlucky tried this they like got an average amount of time, okay? And they gave up so much faster than the group who considered themselves lucky, all right? There are certain things where luck, it just isn't a thing, right? But think about that. That makes sense. That makes sense. If you just have like this external locus of control, if you've trained your mind to have learned helplessness, you're gonna give up on problems that are solvable. Whereas people who consider themselves lucky, they're like, something good's gonna happen, something's gonna happen. You know what, I think I can figure this out. But it's also having this thing called growth mindset, which was another psychological researcher named Carol Dweck. And growth mindsets believes like, I can put in the work and I can become smarter, better, whatever it is, all right? So in the context of Marvel Snap, what are the puzzles that you are giving up on? What are the puzzles that you are not trying to solve? What What are you looking at in your collection of all the cards that you have, and are you giving up? Are you looking at that and saying, oh, I don't have Darkhawk? I can't do anything. Oh, sorry, I can't figure out this puzzle. I don't have this piece, all right? Is that puzzle actually impossible, or are you just not trying again, all right? Now, there's another book out there. God, I have so many books. So those of you who don't know too, I publish a weekly reading list with all the books I read. I have a Substack. I try to share it on my Twitter. I have like a whole other Twitter account and other world of content creation I do. But I publish it every single week on Mondays. And a recent book that I read again is called Quit by Annie Duke. And yeah, sometimes you just need to give up, all right? Sometimes you need to give up. Marvel Snap is not one of those things. If you have 12 cards, you can figure out a way to make something work, all right? Especially with the way Second Dinner has designed it, you get most of the tech cards in like series 2. Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Cosmo, these are cards that work in a ton of different decks, and you can at least counter people, okay? So, now, going into underrated cards and everything like that. So one thing that I just cannot stress enough, when people are complaining about what cards they do and don't have, flexible series drops, do not forget OTAs and patches, all right? When we're talking about underrated cards. So like, I was just watching a video this morning that was talking about how Second Dinner has confirmed that they're going to hold better cards in the higher series, right? Series 4, Series 5, and the unpopular cards, they're gonna drop down faster. And it's like, you guys, they are, I gotta calm down, okay? Second Dinner is giving us, 2 OTA balances every single month, as well as a patch, which completely reworks cards, or reworks them in a significant way that isn't just tweaking the numbers, okay? So like, think about that for like 2 seconds. Cards that you think are bad right now might become a lot better. I just went and I pulled some cards from the last like couple OTA balances. First up, we got Red Skull. Dude used to be a 515, they dropped him down to a 512 because of Shuri. Now he's back up to 514, all right? You never know, like Red Skull, like as soon as they like took him down that much and then they changed how Shuri worked, people just stopped playing the deck. I was getting some Infinite tickets or Infinity Conquest tickets with Red Skull in a Shuri deck. Very, very, very good. Don't forget, cards that are bad now might be better later, all right? And we're gonna come back to that. Nick Fury. Nick Fury is one of the most recent ones. Nick Fury is in another deck that I've been using to farm Infinity Conquest tickets. Nick Fury changed from a 5/7 to a 4/5. Okay, it has a lot of synergy now. You have Zabu, you can use Quinjet, you could drop 2 6-drop cards without having to do some like crazy, like get Sarah out on turn 4 somehow or whatever, right? You could do some crazy stuff. Cards that were bad can get better, okay? So then we have up Dazzler. Dazzler, like Silver Surfer, has been a decent deck forever. Even when they nerfed him, he's been decent. Dazzler now kills it in Surfer decks. You can fill up lanes like that, all right? Brood alone fills up a lane. And Dazzler now being a 3-drop, she gets buffed by Surfer, as well as getting buffed by lanes that are full, okay? Also, Medusa. I have seen Medusa in a lot of decks lately, a lot of decks. She was virtually unplayable, and now she's popping up in decks. Right before they nerfed Dr. Doom recently, people were putting her in Cerebro 5. Just now, D-Money was at the Creator Clash tournament in the UK, and he got to the finals with a Medusa deck. It was a bounce deck, but it utilized Medusa, all right? Because think about that. You pop Medusa down, you get her up to 5, you bounce her back, now you can pop her down again, get her up to 8. Think about these things, my friends. Bad cards can get better, all right? So don't just fall into that learned helplessness. I only have bad cards. Second Dinner is trying to make bad cards good, all right? They are doing that. They're slowly turning the dials and making bad cards good, all right? So chill out. Okay, some quick facts for you. Because there's been a lot of complaining about Darkhawk and Null, and I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't capitalize the K in Null, but we'll talk about that later. All right, so the top decks, everybody's like, oh my God, they didn't drop Darkhawk and Null, okay? So this is untapped.gg. I pulled the stats for the last 30 days, ranked 70 to 99. That's gives you like a decent amount of information. Like these are the most competitive people trying to hit infinite, right? I put 3,000 plus collection level, so like you're series 3 complete. But anyways, look at these stats. Look at the best decks. Do you see Darkhawk and Null anywhere? No, you see Null down here in Galactus. By the way, and this deck has fallen off. I just did last 30 days. I didn't do latest patch because the latest patch was like what Untapped is considering the latest patch was like 3 days ago. Not enough information, so I did last 30 days. But Galactus has dropped down even farther. Then the only deck that has Darkhawk in it, one of the cards everybody's complaining about, is way down here in the Stature deck, all right? So now some of you are like, well, Chris, you have High Evolutionary up there, Series 5. Well, I knew you were gonna say that, and I don't take that as a valid argument because High Evolutionary is the most purchased Series 5 cards, and there's like a 98% chance that if you're watching this, unless you're a brand new player, that you have this card. So zip it, all right? So many people saved up their tokens specifically for that card. Kitty Pryde is also in one of the top decks, Bounce, all right? Which everybody got for free. Everybody got for free, which everybody forgets about, by the way, because Second Dinner only does terrible things. You got a card for free. You got a Series 5 card for free, all right? Well, they kind of owe it to us because she was bugged. No, if you didn't buy the card, you didn't deserve anything, okay? So you got done a solid for getting, not only did you get this card for free, but she is one of the best cards in the game. So again, figure out a way to solve the puzzle. The best decks right here are using cards that most of you watching this already have, all right? So now let's talk about the underrated cards. So what I wanna talk about is something that I've been talking about and preaching since day one, okay? I have a theory that every card has its time to shine, okay? So not only are we having regular patches, all right, and OTA balance updates, but the meta is constantly changes. Cards that were bad will eventually be good because the game is constantly changing, all right? So Shadow King, these are all cards that people have talked crap about that have become very, very good. And I just sit here like, oh, it hurts being right. It just hurts, it pains me being so right, okay? We'll talk about Ghost, that's a unique situation. But anyways, Shadow King, all right? Silver Surfer decks have been good since day one. People thought it was a dead deck after it got, Silver Surfer got nerfed, but I bought Shadow King the week he came out. I spent 6,000 tokens on Shadow King. Everybody's like, Chris, you're a moron, you're an idiot. I cannot believe you spent 6,000 tokens on Shadow King. Well, it's possible. It's possible that I was an idiot, okay? I don't know how many tech cards are worth 6,000 tokens, but tech cards are so valuable. The reason I got Shadow King that first week was because when Shadow King came out, Silver Surfer was at the top of the meta, okay? Silver Surfer decks completely killed that Magantress deck I was telling you about, because Magantress had Shang-Chi and Enchantress, but I could not take out Silver Surfer decks because the only card that was getting up to 9 power was Maximus. Shadow King was a way to reverse that. Now, since then, in an OTA update, because Shadow King used to be a 4 cost, what was he, a 4/2? Something like that? He changed him to a 3/3. Shadow King is popping up everywhere now in Silver Surfer decks. People are loving it because, again, the meta is constantly changing. Think about what decks are the most popular, okay? Like I said, Bounce is one of the most popular decks. You know what card is amazing against Bounce? Shadow King. Shadow King is, oh, you need to take care of that Angela? Shadow King. You need to take care of that Bishop? Shadow King, all right? Shadow King does work right now. So although he was bad, because of the changing meta, that's always changing, Shadow King's decent, all right? Super Skrull. Not many of you know this, but your boy, not only have I been arguing that Super Skrull is an amazing card since day one, but when the meta changed, which it always does, and Darkhawk Dino was at the top of the list, me and my community on Discord, we were some of the first ones who said, you need to be putting Super Skrull in your list, all right? So those of you who have been around for at least a couple months now, you remember when Super Scroll was just the best, like it was like arguably one of the best cards in the game, because when you would go up against mirror matches, you had all of your stuff. You had your Darkhawk, your Dino, you had your Mystique, and you had a Super Scroll just taken away, not taking, but also having their ongoing abilities. And you could snap and win so many 8-cube games just because they were not expecting Super Scroll, all right? So Super Scroll and Shadow King, like I said, these are two cards that everybody just talk crap about. I remember seeing people just post screenshots. Oh my God, I opened up Super Scroll in a reserve. What a terrible card. I'm like, don't sleep on it. It's a decent card, you know? And then all of a sudden it was just everywhere and everyone was acting like, oh yeah, I always knew Super Scroll was good. No. So like, again, just like kind of tie this together, what I'm talking about is like just realize there are underrated cards that you're sleeping on, and like these are just some of the cards that that are coming to top of mind. There might be cards for you that you're using that nobody else is using, and they're just doing amazing for you. In Conquest mode, I've played against some insane decks, and I wish I could see their full deck list. I'm like, whatever you just did was bonkers, and I need to figure out like what your deck list is, all right? So lastly is Ghost. Ghost is another card that I got first week, and I was super excited about it. And this one's still kind of like, you can, it's like, it's iffy, all right? When Stature, the Stature list was the top deck in the meta and everybody was running it, me and then Pulse Glazer over the Snatch Judgment podcast, we were slotting in Ghosts into our decks instead of Nebula because this was when Enchantress was 4-6, all right, and you needed Shang-Chi. When you're running against a mirror, Ghost lets you always go last, all right? It makes sure that you do not have priority. So this way, you can always pull off your Shang-Chi or Enchantress. You are always going to be able to do that, all right? So like Ghost, I don't know if it's gonna come back because the Stature meta kind of like fell out of favor a little bit. So I would say just keep an eye on this. But these are cards that everybody was like, oh, these are terrible, and they have had their times to shine, all right? Now, there's something to say about Stature. This one, I would love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. So, because I don't know if this necessarily falls into my underrated category, it's just that I don't know if Stature was ever worth 6,000 tokens, okay? So Stature was a card that nobody talked about. Nobody talked about Stature, nobody cared about Stature. Actually, there is one person, my fellow content creator, Raven. Raven loves Stature, all right? But he got her when she was 6,000 tokens, as did quite a few other people. And people were doing good. I was just staring at that and I was just like, man, when I saw people posting deck lists with Stature, I was like, dude, I want that card so bad, so bad. Well, apparently like 90% of you guys did too, because when Stature dropped down to Series 4, we all got her. We all got Stature, and then the Stature list came out and it went to the top of the meta. So like, I don't necessarily know if it's fair to say Stature was underrated. She just wasn't worth 6,000 tokens. But here's the like philosophical conundrum we get into, right? She was not worth 6,000 tokens, but then she dropped down to Series 4, making her 3,000 tokens and went to the top of the meta. So like, the question is, if for some reason Second Dinner raised a card back up in Series, now the Stature was at the top of the meta, would she then be worth 6,000 tokens? Chew on that one for a second. So that's why I'm like, I don't really know what to say about Stature, but I will say she was a card nobody was talking about. But as soon as people got her hands on her, she became an amazing card. And one of the reasons I included her in here, what's that saying for other cards? What's this saying for other cards that are in, let's say they start out in Series 5 and they're not performing well. The data that Second Dinner's getting, they're not that great, whatever, and Second Dinner's like, screw it, we're gonna drop this one down to Series 4. Or Second Dinner's like, man, this card is so bad, we're gonna drop it down to Series 3. And then all of a sudden it goes to the top of the meta, all right? So just remember that. There are cards that are in Series 5 because, again, going back to the previous the previous slide. None of us know how good a card is gonna be until we have sufficient data, all right? This is why there are some issues with the card acquisition in Series 5 issues, is that more people having more access to cards lets us get more data and we can see which cards are actually powerful. So like, you're gonna see cards that are in Series 5 that like may appear not powerful, but then when they drop down, we're gonna be like, oh wow, now that people have hands on it, this is an amazing card. Next slide. So, underrated cards. Let's talk about some unlikely tournament winners, all right? Master Mold, amazing card. I've loved Master Mold. I have always loved Master Mold, just the fact that it opened up the archetype for Ronin, and I was able to do something different for a little bit. I got Master Mold immediately. Master Mold is a card that they dropped super quickly because the data wasn't too good for it. But I don't know how many of you know this, but Master Mold won one of the biggest Marvel Snap tournaments to date. Dara JN put together a Master Mold Doom Wave list, and he won a tournament. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but he beat Jeff Hoagland in the finals, and Jeff was playing a bounce deck, and Dara won with this Master Mold deck. So this was an unlikely tournament winner because nobody talks about Master Mold. People just assume the card's bad. No, Master Mold's decent. I made a video the other day on slotting Spider-Ham into a Master Mold deck. Next up is Stegron. Man, Stegron, just a funny story. I was waiting, like I was counting down the days until Stegron was dropping to Series 4 because Stegron was gonna be my next stature. When I see people post Stegron lists and I see gameplay, I'm like, man, I want that card. And he dropped down to Series 4, and I was like, you know what? I'm not buying it. I have him pinned in my shop still. I was like, I'm not buying Stegron. He's the only card I'm missing, by the way. I'm like, I'm not buying him. I'm gonna open him up in a reserve, and I just have not. I have not opened up this fool in a reserve. But anyways, there was just a tournament that happened this weekend, the Snap Fan June Open, and guess what list won the tournament? A Stegron move list, all right? So cards that nobody talks about are out here winning tournaments. Is it possible that you might be wrong about what the best cards are, all right? Then we gotta talk about this, all right? So, Snowguard is the one card where I'm like, maybe it's never gonna have its time to shine. Just maybe it's never gonna have its time to shine, all right? Like, it's a bad card. It was a poorly designed card. I'm an optimist. I try to be creative. I try to think outside the box. Whenever I see a card coming down the pipeline from data leaks or just like the seasonal announcements and just talking with other creators, I'm always like, okay, what can I do with this card? What can I slot it into? Stegron, since the second I saw this card and saw what it did, I'm like, I don't want to use that card, okay? So I put here, just make it so she doesn't work for your opponent, please. Like, and I don't even know if that'd be enough. I don't know if that would be enough. Like, one of Snowguard's major downsides is it works for both people. So, but I don't even know if you just made it for yourself. Like, would I want to put a card in my list that is so location based, right? There are many games where you want to take out a location or reactivate a location, but like, how many games are just like, like the locations, they just don't do anything for anybody, and then I just have a 1-2 card in my list. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if they can fix this card. Hopefully somebody, man, if I had to bet Second Dinner's looking at this card. Like, this is a card that will not be a OTA patch. Like, it's gonna be a rework. So we'll see. We'll see if Snowguard's ever good. But like, in its current state, this is like the only card that I've ever just not been optimistic about, where I'm just like, no, there is just not a use case. So sorry, Snowguard, maybe someday. And plus, and I put a variant up of Snowguard, like, to add insult to injury, the way Snowguard functions, swapping between the bird and the bear, like, you never get to see any of the variants anyways. It's just, come on, Snowguard, come on, girl. All right, to wrap this thing up, at the end of the day, just be an independent thinker and get creative, all right? If you're new here, like, this is something I just really try to just preach and beat into everybody's skulls. Be an independent thinker. There is just so much groupthink in the Marvel Snap community. And I'm not saying like be a purposeful contrarian. I feel like I come off that way sometimes, but like I try to see things that other people might not be seeing. And like, I do agree with people that some cards are not as good as others, you know what I mean? But there are also cards that are a lot better than what people are saying. And I've just seen people just parrot what they see their favorite creators saying and stuff. And that's just part of like the group psychology. We wanna be part of the group. Like not being part of the group feels bad. We are wired to be part of different communities and groups. That's just like our tribal nature. So if I see a bunch of my favorite content creators with thousands of followers saying this card's amazing and this card sucks, am I gonna be the person who runs up in there and says like, I think you're wrong, and then have like a bunch of people on Twitter screaming at me? No, in most cases, I would not do that, but I'm me. I was kind of putting myself in your shoes, like me, because of my mental health and through years of like therapy, sobriety, and everything like that, I have minimized the amount that I care about what other people think. So it's a very freeing experience. So if I think somebody's wrong, I also have a problem. Like if I think people are really wrong about something, I have this issue keeping my mouth shut. But anyways, think independently. Like you don't gotta be like me and go tell people they're wrong, but you can at least play decks that you think might be good, right? Like question things, be skeptical, be a skeptic. When somebody's saying a card's bad, say, what are they basing that off of? How have they come to that conclusion, right? Like I cannot tell you, like one of the reasons I made this video is because I saw people complaining about data mined cards and what series they're releasing into. Like I literally saw people say, Second Dinner is making the worst cards straight to Series 4. I'm like, how the heck do you know what the worst cards are gonna be? We haven't seen them. We don't know what the OTA changes are gonna be by then. We don't know what the meta is gonna look like that by then. Like, I think there's something to be said about the fact that they balanced Nick Fury the week that Secret Invasion came out. Like, is anybody factoring in what Marvel TV shows and movies are coming out to say, oh, maybe that release will be good because they're probably gonna turn the knobs on this card over here because of this TV series coming out. Are you thinking about those synergies? Like, there's just so much. Like, don't listen, like, don't just take my word for it. Don't take other content creators' word for it. Definitely don't take Reddit's word for it because those are a bunch of nut jobs over there. If you're on Reddit, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, I went to the Marvel Snap Reddit for like the first few weeks I was playing. I'm like, nope, got out of there. So be an independent thinker, come to your own conclusions, but most importantly, be creative. The last thing I will say is the main reason I have advocated for cards to drop to lower series faster, regardless of the card, not just the quote unquote best cards, is because when more people have access to cards, we get more creativity out of the community. But if you're falling into the groupthink where you think that just certain cards dropping are bad, you're not even gonna try. You're not even gonna experiment. You're gonna have that learned helplessness, all right? And it's all because you're falling into the groupthink and listening to other people. Oh, well, all these people said this card's bad. And listen, because we strive for like this acceptance from other people, I understand the urge to go on Twitter, show the card that everybody says bad that you just opened up for free in a reserve and say, oh my God, look at this bad card I got. Because you're gonna get this slight little dopamine hit when people like your tweet. You're gonna feel all warm and cozy like, oh my God, I feel part of the group. Look at all these people who said this card was bad and now I said it was bad and they're liking my tweet, all right? Do you want people to like your tweets or do you wanna win games, all right? Get that new card and start experimenting. All right, go to the lab, go to the kitchen, start cooking some stuff up, baby. Don't just go out there and say, oh, this card's bad. Or if you really wanna be like next level, post about it, say, oh my God, look at the terrible card I opened up in a reserve, right? Farm those likes, get the dopamine hits, but what nobody knows is that on your phone or on your computer, you're cooking, you're in the lab with that card. You're in there, you're just making moves, right? And then you make the best deck ever. But then you gotta ask yourself, Now, do I wanna post about this? Because then I'm gonna look silly for that first tweet I did. That's a whole nother video, all right? I'm just throwing some stuff out there. I thought this video was gonna be like 10 minutes when I started it. It's freaking 40 minutes. But anyways, independent thinker, get creative. Don't fall into learned helplessness, all right? Look at the stats, look at the data, and yeah, just rewatch this video if you need to. And by the way, this video is so long, I watch videos at 2x speed. So this video was actually 20 minutes if you learn how to train yourself to do that. That's also how I get through a lot of books. Audiobooks, 2x speed. Smart, like my man in the vid. All right, anyways, that's all I got for this video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new, subscribe, ring that notification bell. We're always doing monthly giveaways. I'm giving away 3 season passes. Next season's gonna be sick. Is next season the Jean Grey season? Oh yeah, it is. All right, so I'm giving away 3 season passes. We got 1 more week in this season. So make sure you follow me on Twitter too, at BootmanMSTZ. Feel free to join our Discord community. And yeah, just stay tuned because this weekend's DC Duel Force, I have a ton of beta keys left over if you still need one, all right? So thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.